Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Four Lads Rangers Friday Night Live. What a day we've had! What a couple of days we've had, actually. Some week, actually, for me to choose to take a few days off. We've had signings, we've had rumours, we've had travel gear released, Kenny, and then we've had a whole lot of fun in between. And there's still signings and rumours and everything floating about. So a fun-filled evening ahead. Kenny, how have you been?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. There was meant to be 4 of us on, then it was 3, then it was 2, then it was 3, then it was 2 again. Technical glitches everywhere, isn't there? Yeah, not too bad, mate. How's yourself? I know you were away for a wee break. You good?
Yeah, it was good. It was great to be away with the kids for a few days, sailing round Lake Windermere and such like. They had a ball, so it's been good fun. Nice to be back, and a few signings in the bag to talk about. And do you know what I'm really happy about? Thank goodness, because I'm sitting giving it, Kenny. I'm all relaxed, and signings will come and everything else. And deep inside, I'm like, what the is going on? Where are all these players? But thankfully, we got a few, and it looks like there's a few more arriving also.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, and it's been a long time coming, but let's hope so. Looking forward to the next few days and who comes in the door, and I'll keep saying it. I'd like to see some exits while we're at it. I think we need some bodies out as well. And I'll tell you something, I actually bricked it there because if you'll know, we've changed the way that this is working for me tonight, and I've looked up and seen there was nobody watching, and then realised I can't see that at the minute, so it's not so bad.
I'm reliably informed there's 1,000 watching already across all channels. We're only a couple of minutes in, so delighted to have everybody on board. Right, Kenny, let's talk about the travel gear. I'll be honest with you, I think Umbro's 3 kits so far have been spot on. Now, look, home one's always going to be blue. Traditionally, you get a white one in there, and more or less the third one is black, and then the fourth one's normally a bit extravagant. I think they've all been fine. There's nothing that really jumps off the page. There's nothing that's underwhelming. I think they've all been good, solid kits. So I'm all right with Umbro so far. Then the travel range this morning, and I've got to be honest with you, there's no point in sugarcoating it, even as an affiliate and somebody who I loved the Castore range. More or less all the Castore range I thought was pretty decent, and people will criticise. I don't mind that. There was loads of it, for goodness sake, but I quite liked it. This morning, Kenny, nah, I'm sorry. It's cheap and it doesn't look great. Not a good look for me. I'm sorry.
No, as soon as I seen it, I headed to the chat, didn't I, and said that. That's hideous. Everything about it for me is hideous. There's nothing nice in there. There's a black T-shirt that I think they were looking for 45 or 50 quid for. And it's barely passable, and you wouldn't be paying 50 quid for it. And I'm sorry, you just wouldn't. Listen, you've got to be fair and say, I don't know what they're thinking. I've no idea. It's cheap tat looking. I mean, I'm trying to choose my words, but it's tacky looking. It's meant to be retro, and it looks as if you could buy it out the bucket bin in Sports Direct for a few quid. I'm not impressed by that at all. And frankly, they need to do better because nobody's going to buy that. I just do not like that at all. And listen, it's all about opinion. I'm sure some people will look at it and go, I really quite like it. Not for me. There's a kind of zipper thing there. I think it was 90 quid or something like that. And you're like, no, come on. You've got to do better than that, mate. You really have, because it's a license to print money with the Rangers support. If you get it right, we'll buy it. Maybe not the likes of me. I'll pick and choose because I'm that bit older. So it's got to be right for me to wear it. But in general, the support will just buy the barrel load. So I don't understand why they've literally taken that generic Umbro top and slapped a Rangers crest on it and said, there you go, we're going to charge you £40 more for that than the one without the crest, because that's exactly what it looks like to me.
Yeah, look, There's a wee comment here of a few of the Castor hoodies and they're decent quality. I agree. I like the travel range. I bought that myself. I love the zip pockets and stuff like that. I think today's a major own goal. And I think what it does is when it's that early, it just kind of puts the fans against it a wee bit, because a lot of fans were saying, really hoping for a big name coming in with the takeover and things like that. And I did point out that Castor made Rangers a hell of a lot of money last season in the accounts. I think it was 8 million plus. And that's why we would have stuck with them. I think today's an own goal. I don't think it works. And it's bad when you can buy the equivalent of the t-shirts for $5.99, $6.99 elsewhere without the RFC badge. You stick that on it and you're wanting £45. I don't think it's right. So I hope that they take on board the feedback and things like that, because it doesn't look great. And look, my wee man, he absolutely loves the club. Kenny Jackson's absolutely mad on Rangers. He's away playing football now, decked head to toe in the black kit and goals and everything else, and he absolutely loves it. And I showed him that stuff this morning, and even he wasn't, he loves new stuff. He's a kid. You know what I mean? He's 8-year-old, and even he wasn't saying, Dad, can I get this? And I can get that. So I just hope that they have learned from it. I really do. That's all I will say on it. It's early in the relationship with Umbro, that's for sure. And I hope they'll look at feedback. I don't think we need it. See, for me, I quite like simple. I like retro, but see that the positioning, it's too bulky, it's too budged up, and it doesn't look right. The positioning and everything else didn't look right. So for me, as I said, I hope we kind of learn from it. But Kenny, there was the first presser of the season today. We missed it as four lads. We didn't have anybody there due to everybody working. I was travelling, so I didn't make it. But I have borrowed some quotes from a very good friend of mine, Joshua Barry. And Joe Rothwell spoke for the first time. Now, this is the first chance I've had to kind of speak about Joe Rothwell. Obviously, I wasn't on Monday and wasn't on Wednesday night. I'm pleased he's here. Great coup for Joshua. He was the one that kind of broke the news on Monday. I was able to work with him. I've worked with Joshua quite closely on a few stories this week, and he's been spot on. Joshua reported Rothwell. He reported Emmanuel Fernandez. Me and him worked on Rothwell and DeSal Bibo, which was confirmed with coaches last night as well. So he's been great. But Joe Rothwell, I'm really pleased. Ball carrier, box to box, can slice open opponents and things. We're going to need that. We need more goals from midfield, Kenny. That's one of the big things. So a couple of his comments today. He said, just before I signed for Bournemouth, it was a toss-up between coming here or there, but I'm thankful the opportunities come up again and getting the chance to play in the Premier League. I'm just excited to be here and get started. As soon as I had the call from the manager, I was all in. He sees the game like I would as a manager and how he is as a man. So just going to stop it there, Kenny. Just on that, we knew that Russell Martin would be a big influence, didn't we, on players coming in? But it's nice to hear it when you see Joe Rothwell. I've heard some really good things about how the players are enjoying things so far. Now, you hear that. I get it. When things are new, I understand that. But it all seems to be quite positive surrounding Russell Martin. And when you see him and the way he is, I liked him giving Danilo a big cuddle after Danilo was getting his usual wreck during training and stuff like that. But positive stuff so far.
Yeah, it's his man management that everybody talks about. It's not even so much the management skills. It's the man they talk about, isn't it? The amount of players you've heard, even down at Southampton, how they were all absolutely gutted a few months back when he lost his job down there. They all felt really guilty because they were all in on him, and they felt disappointed that they couldn't help him. And everybody Max Aarons is another one that turned around and mentioned Russell Martin, and there's been quite a few that have kind of hinted at this, isn't there? That this guy is a person, he's a wee bit special. He's a kind of a player's kind of guy, I think, where he looks after them everywhere he's been. All these players have said that as well, Stevie, that they go all in, he gets this camaraderie, he gets this team spirit, the unit. He absolutely demands it from them. He makes sure that they integrate off the pitch as well as on it, which I think's been pretty lacking for us over the last couple of years, isn't it? I think I'm not saying it's been cliquey, but you get the impression sometimes it's been a bit cliquey with certain things. You know, you've got English players, you've got Scots, you've got foreign guys, and it's always kind of difficult to, you know, to get them to mold together as a unit. And I think if you can do that, I think it's half the battle for us, because what I've noticed is that even when on the training videos, I don't know if you've noticed that, Stevie, if you've seen them, that what he's doing is, see, when you can hear him in the background shouting the ball and all the time, but see when somebody's doing something right, there's this massive roar from him, and it's this encouragement, and I think players are buying into it. And noticeable, as I say, that a couple of the boys that have turned up in the last week or so have both pointed to that, isn't it? That, yeah, I would have came here probably anyway, but that Russell Martin kind of seals the deal for me, which is a little bit like, in a different way, but it's similar to what happened with Steven Gerrard, isn't it? That we knew that he would be somebody that a little bit like a magnet. People would be drawn to him because of who he was, and I think that Russell Martin, as a manager, is getting that kind of reaction as well.
Yeah, I think so. It speaks a wee bit. A few questions. Did Russell Martin do a presser today? No, he didn't. It was only new signings that were needed today. So Joe Rothwell, I'm not sure if Fernandez spoke. They might have held that back. As I said, we didn't have anybody there today as well. Question here. Cheryl asked Joe a question at the presser. No, she didn't. She was not there today. I've just double checked with her. Sometimes Cheryl works for follow as well for doing the gantry and doing pressers and stuff, but she wasn't there. Literally just text her. So no, it wasn't her. I'm not sure who it was. I've not heard from the press conference today. So no, that wasn't the case for us today. Getting back to Rothwell's comments, just on the Russell Martin thing, Kenny, I knew he was going to be a pull and a kind of drive for people to come here and his man management style. When you hear the stories of Joe Rothwell said on the podcast about him putting notes under the door, I think if you get the chance to go back to that kind of thing, then you're going to want to do it. So I'm not surprised by that. But he goes on to say about his style of play. Your game adapts to different teams. Last season, we had a lot of possession at Leeds, so it was about starting attacks. Don't get me wrong, I always want to get on the ball and run with it. He says, I've been impressed in training so far by the Rangers midfield. It's a young squad, and maybe that is part of the reason the club wanted me to come here. And on adapting to expectations, you see from outside how huge the club is. It's built to win trophies. Certainly is built to win trophies, but we haven't exactly done that. But I'm hopeful that he can be that. We've spoke a wee bit about getting a six in, about getting midfielders in. It certainly looks like they're doing that. We'll talk about a few of the links to players, and especially Asgard, which we hopefully will find out about him soon. But I'm pleased he's here. I'm pleased that he's arrived. He's somebody that I look forward to watching. He spoke as well about how Martin was a possession type manager, but sometimes it looks like it's possession for possession's sake, but the players know what they're doing, and that's key to it all. So I found that comment quite interesting.
That was interesting. I picked that up myself, that he said that, I think, to the outside, it will look as if we're passing for passing sake or something like that, is the way he put it. It's about every pass is important. It means it's leading to somewhere. And we kind of heard that, didn't we, when he was announced, and I was watching a couple of podcasts and guys were saying that it takes a while to kind of click, and it takes it, you wonder why you're just passing and passing and passing. However, with Joe Rothwell, I think it's quite interesting for me that Russell Martin has been really influential in picking this boy up, because I was under the impression, now I understand that a manager's going to have an input, but I was surprised at how much input he seems to be having, because the only issue I would have with that on a negative side is if you get a big pile of Russell Martin players in and it doesn't work and he ends up having to leave, then you're left with a big pile of players that perhaps aren't 100% fully committed. But what really got my goat on the press conference today, mate, was I think it was a boy from the Daily Record. I don't know if you've actually heard it at all, but he just kept banging on about his time at Man United when he was a kid, and you could see the boy Rothwell himself actually looking at him, giving it, "Why are you asking me this?" And then he would come back with another one about Man United, and it was just utter nonsense. And the best questions from the press conference came from Joshua Barry by a long, long way. The mainstream media in this country's got a lot to kind of grasp sometimes when you can see a player quite visibly look at you and kind of go and get deflated in front of you. It's maybe time to chuck it and ask a different question and talk about why he's here and what he's, nobody even mentioned the Bruges game to him. I mean, it was kind of nuts with all these mainstream media guys, and they didn't bother asking kind of pertinent questions. That was kind of the thing that kind of freaked me out a little bit when I listened to it. I just thought, what's that about? Like, lots of it.
As I said, I've struggled to see the coverage today, Kenny, just with travelling all day and things like that, and we didn't have anybody there, so I've not really had any reports of it or anything else. You know yourself that you had to help me with the agenda. And to be fair, though, you've kind of been doing the agenda because I just patch it, but you've been doing that, to be fair. So, I don't know about these questions. I would have asked him, see what would have interested me. I would have asked him if he had a target in mind. What can the fans expect to see of him and a player? What kind of player is he? Do you have a target in mind for goals? Is there a specific number you target for? Stuff like that. I always think that's quite interesting to see because it'll tell you a lot about where they see themselves in the team. Yeah, I want to hit a certain amount of goals, or I'm looking forward to getting. But I'm surprised if you're saying, I mean, Man United, was he not just a kid there? Didn't even play before he left and kind of made his breakthrough. So that's, I suppose, as I said, I haven't heard it to kind of look at it and kind of go on and kind of look into it further. But so I thank you to Joshua because it is his notes we've used there, Kenny, in fairness. But that's what would you have asked him? What would you have asked? What would you have wanted to hear from Joe Rothwell today?
What he expects from here, what he wants to do, what his ambitions while he's here, what position does he see himself play? There's a number of pertinent and obvious questions you could ask Stevie, and as I say, nobody mentioned the Bruges game, and as I'll be perfectly blunt about this, that you're sitting with a situation where you've got a guy that from the Daily Record as it was, that just sat there and just kept going on and on and on about something that was utterly irrelevant, and that's going to kind of freak me out a little bit. But the questions that I would ask, well, those that I've just said to you, that I would be looking at what is it? Where does he see himself playing in this midfield for a start? Because he's a little bit box to box. He could play as a 6, he could play as an 8. What does he see himself doing? Is he, does he see himself winning titles and trophies? And, what's their ambitions for Europe? All these things that are things that fans want to hear instead of, did you go to Man United games often? Which is
I like this one from Macca, Kenny, about him being good at set pieces. I would ask him about that. James Tavernier has been our set piece taker for so long. Are you looking forward to working with James on that? And have you already had a bit of banter around who's going to be taking the free kicks and stuff? That's more interesting to me than anything. And I think that's a good point by Macca.
Yeah, it is. It's a pertinent question that fans want to hear the answer to, isn't it? That's all it is. As I say, talking about a guy when he was a young kid and how he had to explain how everybody there got a season ticket at Man United. So I've seen a lot of games. It's just weird. And as I say, I don't want to sit and hark on about this too much, but it was just one of those things when I listened to it, I thought, what on earth where are you going with this? And as I say, to kind of finalise my point on this, at most press conferences, I'll say this, and I'm not here to kind of float your boat here, but yourself, Davey over at Heart and Hand, the other boys at Heart and Hand, the Rangers Review, even some of the other boys on fan media, they always ask the better questions than the mainstream media do, because to go on a tangent looking for a headline, whereas the fan media boys don't.
Aye, Joe Rothwell, I just want to know how many goals you're going to score and how good you're going to be. That's all I'm really interested in. But let's move on. I do want to highlight, just before we talk about signings and rumours and all that kind of stuff, a good evening to John over at iSport Media. John contacted us a couple of weeks ago to offer his support for the podcast. Didn't want anything back, didn't want any help, just offering could he sponsor a show, could he do something, and his support has been fantastic. So we're looking forward to teaming up with John at iSport Media in the coming weeks, and support from people who have signed up to be members and help myself and the podcast for YouTube and things like that have been unbelievable. We even got a new member tonight signing up as well, and as you know, this is going to be kind of full time for me, so I'm looking to possibly do this a lot more. So everybody reaching out and offering support and things like that has been absolutely incredible. So John, good evening, thank you. Right, Kenny, this is a bit that everybody tunes in for, I think, what's really been happening signing wise and stuff like that. I will repeat what I always say to everybody. I am not in the know. I am not. So I'm going to tell you honestly how this week's unfolded. Joshua Barry broke the news of Joe Rothwell on Monday morning. I was actually chasing the goalkeeping coach story. Between Joshua and I, Joshua nailed that story. And I came to Joshua, I think it was Tuesday morning, and said to Joshua about Rothwell deal being done. He was here, everything okay. Joshua knew that as well. And we both went at 11 o'clock with that news, having went on the Monday night, I think it was, with the Sal Bibo news. So Joshua deserves maximum credit because he's the one that's done all the legwork here with that news. And then we went and posted again yesterday at the same time, again, that we're working on this story. Joshua, both of us posted, Joshua from Rangers Review and myself at 11 o'clock, that Rangers are closing in on Thello Asgard with a fee in the region of £5 million. Will be undisclosed. Every deal now is undisclosed on a long-term contract. Rangers won't stop there. Efforts to sign Connor Cody from Leicester on a permanent deal continue, as is Nasser Njiga on loan from Wolves, and that will also intensify. Joshua leading the investigation on this all the way. He deserves all the credit here, folks, especially with the Nasser Njiga loan move. I'm not even sure that's how you pronounce it. Is it Giga? Is it Njiga? I'm not sure. Somebody can tell me. We might just need to ask him if and when he arrives, which is hopefully soon. Connor Cody from Leicester continues on. That's not as straightforward as it seems. There's things that have happened in the last couple of days with Connor Cody. Used to be Wolves captain, etc. So these have been difficult few days for him. I'm not be surprised if that just gets delayed a couple of days here and there, just well for him arriving. I think all these deals will hopefully happen. It's not in the know. It's not telling you 100 definitely percent it will happen. I've all heard the rumours about Thello Asgard being at the training ground today, being done, waiting on the Rangers announcement. Rangers have rushed out announcements at 6, 6:30, 5:35, all sorts. We've had Kellogg's training days at 8 in the morning, Kenny. But we're excited. Things are actually happening, aren't they? It's exciting to know that Sky News have reported on Asgard, Sky News, BBC, STV. Everybody's reported that news that myself and Joshua kind of brought to you. And to be fair, we didn't break it. I think Daily Mail had it first earlier on in the week. And this is, as I said, this is Joshua's kind of work. So I really, what I'm trying to say is he's the one that deserves all the credit here for me. Definitely, he's the one that's done all the work. But it's nice now. That's, if you were to get those three, suddenly you've got Rothwell, you've got Asgard, midfield kind of looks okay. Centre back, you've got Fernandez, who we haven't even discussed yet, Connor Cody, Njiga, you would have Nsiala, you would have Suter. Competition, you could go to 3, you could have 2. You've got fullbacks. Max Aarons will be right back. Max Aarons, will be right back, but can cover left back. You've got that cover there. All of a sudden, it's looking good. Next phase, you would hope after this would be attackers, but we'll get to that. But if they were to come in, and it's still an if, nothing's done until it's ever announced in their scarves, etc. from Rangers. But if that was to be done, it's an exciting signing. And look, we've spent a lot of money on the boy Fernandez. We've spent a lot of money on Rothwell. If you were to put that kind of outgoing on Asgard, these are exciting moments.
Yeah, much kudos to Joshua for this week's work. I don't know if you remember, but last week I was on the Rangers View comment section calling him Michael Hutchins, and less kudos for that. He didn't even know who Michael Hutchins was. But
he's only 20 odd, isn't he? He's a young lad.
Here, mate. Michael Hutchins is Michael Hutchins. You've got to know who that is. Either that or it's go do some homework, mate. Honestly. But on the Asgard kid, he does look decent. I've been absolutely honest. I didn't know much about him before. I'd heard the name, to be fair. I had heard his name, but I haven't seen much of him play. So you do your digging, you do a bit of scouting on YouTube as best you can, and he looks very decent. Very Todd Cantwell-like, but perhaps a little bit faster. He plays slightly different position where he's more on the left, I believe. But he's slightly bigger as well. I think he looks slightly stronger. And you know, it's a serious outlay if you're forking out £4 or £5 million for the guy. But he's only been at Leicester. Not Leicester, I beg your pardon. He's only been at Luton since January, so that's a little bit of a strange one. And there was a rumour, and we still don't know if that's true. As far as I'm aware, that there was a rumour that he's got a release clause for relegation. No idea if that's the case or not, but that was a rumour that was doing the rounds. But he's an exciting looking player. Scored 15 goals last season from midfield. That's exciting stuff. Over the two clubs that he played for, Wigan and Luton. On the centre half Fernandez we've signed. What a size that is. He's enormous. And
I'll be interviewing him, Kenny. I'm 4 foot nothing, and it'll be like talking to a tree. I'll be like, "What are you doing?" So Mason Munn was bad enough last year, and I think he's 6'1". This boy's 6'5", isn't he?
6 yeah, best part of 6'5".
Right, well, he can sit down if I get to speak to him.
Well, we've got a picture of you with Mason Munn, and Mason Munn's head's not in it, so it shows you how small you are, mate. But it's again, you know, when you look at the boy from Wolves and Giga, I think his name is. Again, I mentioned, you wouldn't have seen this, but I mentioned on Wednesday that I'd seen a couple of the Red Star Belgrade games earlier on the season in the Champions League, and I'm not saying he stood out because he didn't. I'm not suggesting that, but they were a decent enough side, and if any team's forking out £10 million for a 22-year-old centre half, he must have potential galore. I would think he must have bags of potential, and the kind of story is that, as far as I'm aware, that we're prepared to pay slightly more than of his wages than certain other clubs, but he's very much in demand. So if we get that, even on a loan deal, it's a little bit of a coup, isn't it? It's, you know, it's a boy that's got bags of experience already. I think he's got he's played every game in the group and then the league stages of the last 2 years in the Champions League for Red Star Belgrade. He's played all the qualifiers, won league titles, and I've noticed that as well. When you look at Rothwell, you look at Max Aarons, you look at Connor Cody, that if he's coming, and yeah, you know, condolences to everybody with the Diogo Jota thing, because it's just horrific, isn't it? It's just a horrific thing. But we're buying winners, mate. We're actually buying guys that have actually won things, and are signing players that have won things, and that's an interesting thing that I've been kind of crying out for a long time. We need actual winners in our dressing room, and it looks as if we might be getting some.
Yeah, let's talk a wee bit about NASA and Giga. Actually, online, it's pronounced Gia, apparently. So, as I said, let's hope we get clearance of that. It's supposed to be a year-long loan from Wolves, no option. He's 22, Burkina Faso international. He has 8 caps for them and 1 goal. He was at Red Star, joined Wolves in 2025 in February for £10 million. He played 27 games for Red Star with 3 goals. He's had 6 appearances for Wolves. Said to be strong, agile, and a good ball-playing centre-back. good with the ball, which is going to be obvious because we're a possession-based team. Joe Rothwell's already spoke about that. If you look at him, you look at Cody, you look at Fernandes, these are all big guys. It's not a secret to see what we're doing, Kenny. And one of the things that we commented about last season, and probably now for a couple of seasons, is how light we are. There's been a lot of talk about Emmanuel Fernandes from Peterborough fans. A lot of it's quite rash. A lot of it's probably how we would describe Ben Davies and Robin Proper. Difficult on the ball, prone to errors, prone to moments of really madness, I think you could call it, and other moments of brilliance where if he's on it and he's on his game, he's perfect. He wins everything in the air. I think I saw a stat. He's over at 80% of his headers won. He's good in the duel. He's a good tackler. He's tough, but he does have moments like real kind of brain fart moments, which we will need to coach out of him. Now it's interesting if Gia does come and if Cody also, if they hopefully arrive in the next few days, maybe Fernandes would be taken in and out and not really a first team player, but they've now got that solid presence, Kenny, and that was something that really stood out to me. We're going to have a big backline, no matter how you want to do it, with big guys in there commanding. And if you've got somebody like Rothwell putting in set pieces, which we've talked about, I think I looked at his stats and he created 5 goals for Leeds, but there was 12 chances on goal he created from his set pieces. And if you get that kind of delivery between him and Tav from certain areas, then we should be a threat.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the size of the signings in general, they're much bigger than we've been buying of late or signing of late. And I mean, the boy in Gia he's 6'4" as well. So I think Connor Cody's 6'3", if I remember right. So these are not small guys. These are big, powerful units. And it's been sadly lacking. And I understand what you're saying about the boy Fernandes from Peterborough. I've listened and watched a couple of pods. And, Peterborough fans it's always a little bit of a concern when, the fans of the club you're buying from are giving it kind of meh, we don't really care. However, when you actually look at, I'll do this quickly, right? That we are clearly going down a different path where the story is that Russell Martin and Dan Purdy both seen him in a cup tie for Everton against Peterborough at Goodison, I believe it was, and he did very well. I actually watched the Birmingham Peterborough Cup final. I can never remember, is it the FA
EFL trophy?
Aye, something like that. The FA trophy.
Well, he was man of the match in that game, I think.
Yeah, and they were really good, Peterborough. To be fair to them, and that's a team I believe that finished, 17th, 18th in that league. So, we're a little bit snobbish when it comes to that league. There is diamonds to be had in there. There's gems to be found, because you can look at our own Joe Aribo, you could look at Matt O'Reilly across the city. You can get cracking players in that league, and when you look at the Championship and the signings that they're making in particular, but even in some of the Premier League, they're always buying from that league. They're always, recruiting from that league anyway. And that's kind of where I would look at it and say instantly, well, if Peterborough fans are seeing all these mistakes, what is it we are seeing? And it'll be database stuff. They will actually have looked, and perhaps they might be saying that, for what I want a better way of putting this, he might actually be underperforming for the stats that he has. Do you know what I mean by that? And they might well be looking and saying, we can actually coach that out of him.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been busy. If you look at the incomings, we've now sitting at 4 with Max Aarons, Fernandes, Rothwell, you've got Cameron as well. So it's been exciting. I'm looking forward to more. I do think we'll get more. Look, we're waiting on Asgard, aren't we? We're waiting on that news coming in. I think we're all kind of sitting patiently waiting. We don't know exactly if and when it will be. I've heard all the rumours tonight about him being at the training ground. They remain rumours until Rangers put out that news. As we said yesterday, they're closing in on that deal. I would expect we will hear news about Cody and Gia in the coming days. That's obviously a loan from Wolves for a year, which is an interesting straight loan. Cody would be a permanent move. So, look, there's plenty of experience in Cody as well as Joe Rothwell. So, it's all exciting for me. Next thing, Kenny, is we have to get players out the door. We spoke about that. Now, I speculated, and it was pure speculation from me, that the likes of Robin Proper and potentially Ben Davies won't be allowed to go at centre back until we get others in. If that happens, I would expect those things to start materialising, especially Proper, who we know has got a move basically waiting for 20 to go back. But as you said earlier, there is a necessary intent now. You've got Dowell, you've got Davies, you've got Matondo, you've got Cifuentes. They're all sitting waiting return from loans. These guys all need to be moved on from the football club. That's not to mention what's happening at left back, Ridvan Yilmaz. I noticed that Max Aarons has been number 3 in training. Does that tell you something? So what's happening with Ridvan Yilmaz? What's happening with our strikers? I've yet to see a picture of Hamza Egaman and Cyril Dessers in training. We don't have an answer of where they are and why that is. Is it just opportunist camera work and photography? I don't know. Somebody might be able to tell me better. I was pleased to see John Souttar in training, pleased because I did really play that down and said it was only a niggle and he would be absolutely fine. And I was waiting to get lynched if he was literally out for 6 months, normal John Souttar style. But that was good to see. But there's questions now, Kenny. Now that they're starting to come in, would you expect to see guys to go out? I'm really hopeful we do.
We need them to go. There's a kind of positive about this, that they're bringing guys in regardless to the minute. There are certain players been out the door already, which suggests to me that they are pretty much aware that guys are going out the door. It's just a case of waiting to get some of these deals over the line or whatever. It's also very interesting because, as you say, no sign of the two strikers. And there was a rumour in a report actually that I read that the Egerman thing will be done tonight and might be announced over the weekend. I have no idea if that's true. It was just something I read online. Cyril Dessers is another thing that I just look at and think, well, it's the same every single window. He's getting linked with somebody and it doesn't happen. And for his own sake, I think he must be aware that Rangers are looking at the boy Turgeman. They must be aware that he might well have been told, look, you're not going to be a first choice. You might be the third choice if you stay. So it would be better for everybody concerned if you moved on. Not saying again that that's what's happened. It's just my kind of take on it. That I think that might well be the case. The fact that he's not back in training, it might be a case of trying to get him a deal pushed over the line. But there's more than just that. You know yourself, the boys like Matondo, the two boys that were at Birmingham last year, Jose Cifuentes, all these guys that you've mentioned, we need them to leave because when you rack it all up, mate, it's a hefty monthly wage bill that you would be saving on that would allow us to bring other players in and do the business that we want to do. And there'll come a point where, the squad is that bloated. If we don't start getting players out, that you're going to have to start separating them, and you can't do that. You can't have too many players and try and coach them all at the same time. So we need to get them out, and it would be very. The only thing I would say to point to something that about the arrivals that kind of surprised me is both Rothwell and Fernandez. Now, Fernandez said he heard about it a few weeks ago, but 3 weeks ago. So that's taken its time. So there's obviously loads of work going on in the background. But Rothwell actually mentioned that he knew quite a long time ago that the offer to come up here was there. Literally weeks and weeks ago, because he said when Russell Martin turned up, that was the kind of deal breaker. He was right. I'm definitely wanted to come anyway, but that was the absolute get me up the road. So, Russell Martin's been here 3 weeks, and he knew before that. So we're just going to have to trust the process. and what the 49ers and Adam Kavanagh and Kevin Thelwell are doing, mate, and just let them get on with it. And I'm sure that they'll get them out the door because it's imperative that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Some people are asking about the Scottish contingent and stuff. It's interesting to see Kieran Wright sign a 1-year deal because he's homegrown and Scottish as well. So your three keepers could be, at moment, Jack Butland, Liam Kelly, and Kieran Wright. And Liam Kelly and Kieran Wright are both homegrown and both Scottish. So that's two straight away. Bailey Rice, also now homegrown and Scottish, having moved from Motherwell. He's been with us long enough to become a homegrown player as well. There's three straight away. John Suter, Scottish. That's four. So that's just off the top of my head. Ross McCausland is homegrown and Scottish quoted as well. There's your 4 homegrown you need and 5 in total. So there'll be another couple more. The rumours keep coming, Kenny. We're permanently linked with Jamie Vardy at the moment. There was a rumour that he had met with somebody from the club the last couple of days. I read that somewhere on X and some comment. I read last night people suggesting we were interested in Kevin Nisbet as well, from who was on loan at Aberdeen, and so the rumours are wild. Every player is getting linked with us at the moment. But you know what? Last week and the week before, we had nothing to talk about on these podcasts, and we had to try and talk about what we wanted to happen. Now we've got it coming out our ears, and I'm excited again about players coming in. If we can get these boys in, you can start to slowly but surely see a spine appearing in the team. You can see goals from midfield. I think Thelo Asgard will score goals. I think Joe Rothwell will pick up goals. You don't need 20 from these boys. If you can pitch in and get 20 between your midfielders, that's 20 that we've not had before. I think Raskin had, started to show a sign of intent. If you can chuck all these guys in together and have that attacking threat, and this will also be good for Diamandi, who I always felt was a wee bit inconsistent. Really good player. I like him when he turns up, big European games, Celtic games. I think he's really, really good, and he seems to rise to the occasion. But other times he wanders a wee bit. If you can take him in and out, I think you'll be really strong in that midfield area, Kenny. And then you look at that spine appearing, and then it's exciting. But who's going to come in the left? Who's going to come in the right? What's happening with our strikers? All that becomes interesting for me.
Very much so. And the boy Asgard plays in a very similar position to Mo Diamandi, so that will be interesting to see what happens there. But I don't want Kevin Nisbet. I think if a guy can't get into an Aberdeen team, with all respect, I don't think he's going to get into our side. So I don't really understand that one. However, it is that time of the year where the rumours are just going bonkers, and you're hearing something every 20 minutes actually that it's such and such, and most of it will be rubbish. We all know that, but on the midfield, I'm actually quite excited with what's going on there, because when you look at Raskin and Diamandi, I think they're both cracking players. I mean, we all know what we feel about Nico Raskin, but I'm a big admirer of Mo Diamandi as well. And I felt like a lot of times last season, you could see the absolute frustration boiling over with him, where he was literally almost having a wee temper tantrum at times on the pitch, because maybe people weren't on his wavelength, or he was being asked to do far too much running. And we discussed this from pre-season last season, Stevie. You think the amount of times our midfield could get ripped open with one pass, and the amount of running that they were having to do, these two guys, and we were just far too open. And I think that this is going to be narrowed. I think we're going to have plenty of bodies in there, and with the options you're going to have, and Joe Rothwell's mentioned it, and I think it's a really pertinent and correct thing for him to say, is that we was talking about the experience he has. He thinks he's probably been brought here for that experience that he has. And, he's been a championship player for years, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever it is. He's also played in the Premier League with Bournemouth. He is fully experienced at the very top level of the game. And I think when you see Nico Raskin at 24, Mo Diamandi, I think, is 24. Is it Nico Raskin 25 now, maybe? The young boy, Asgard. And you look at it, and they're all really young, and they're bundles of energy. And all of a sudden, when you see Bailey Rice You're going to learn from somebody like Rothwell. You see Connor Barron. We've got bags of options all of a sudden, because I think we were miles away from having proper options last season in the middle of the park. And I think the lack of control in games that we had kind of proves that we were asking too many of these young boys to go to the well over and over and over again without giving them a proper rest, which, as you say, rotation is going to be key, I think.
Yeah, it certainly is. Look, I think we're all kind of excited. I want to catch up on a few of the kind of comments that people have kind of made. Stevie, do you think now there won't be previous Rangers players as part of the coaching team? All I know is that Maurice Ross was looking to speak to the club. I've not spoke to Maurice recently. I did text him last weekend and we were having a laugh. But apart from that, I've not spoke to him to find out. I don't ask stuff like that because it's kind of. But do I think I would still be hopeful that maybe somebody else will come in? Mike Williamson obviously announced this week. I think there's still room for more. And my good friend Gary asked, have you heard anything about Owen Beck? No, generally. I've not heard any rumour-wise, apart from the ones I've kind of put up online. Rumour-wise, I've kind of said as well. John asked too as well. Random question, what's the deal with the 19s and OB team? We've discussed this a wee bit, Kenny, quite a lot with regard to the B team is disbanded now, but it's essentially the 19s as a second Rangers team. And what they've chosen to do is give younger players more experience at that level. So we'll still be competing in the Glasgow Cup and things like that. And still be competing. I think Glasgow Cup, as well as it's like the trophy. It's equivalent to the EFL trophy that we got to the semi-finals of last year. So Davy McCallum is in interim charge of the training centre, and Stevie Smith's now the 19 manager with Malky Thompson. So that's the kind of gives you the kind of guideline of who's in charge there. So hopefully that kind of helps as well. Quick question: does nobody check the questions that are asked at pressers? No, you're allowed to ask what you want when you are, and the only stipulations are you're polite, and if you're ever kind of too aggressive or emotional or anything, then Rangers would speak to you. But all honesty, Rangers, in all my time here, and you will have seen questions I've asked to Clement and Gio and stuff, I've never spoke to me once about anything I've asked. So I think they just rely on your kind of common sense. It's up to you to kind of do that whatever way you want. John Turner, Vardy rumours true, Stevie? Don't know, John. If you're telling me they are, then okay, we'll need to wait and see. But they're rumours, just like the boy Brooks was kind of hotly spoke about this week as well, Kenny. We're going to be linked with a million players now, but it is exciting at least. And I wanted to catch up on a few of the comments there because I do read them as they're coming in. And yeah, we are really looking forward to. I'm going to highlight this one though. Rangers Rabble don't seem happy that your live is the same time as them. Listen, we love the Rabble. We love the guys over there. We're very supportive of Rangers fan media and Martin and the guys over there. We've went live at 7 the last few Fridays, and we'll keep doing that, and we do it to help out Club 1872. If that's stepping on other people's toes, we can organise it, and we'll just go different times because there's enough, and we want Rangers content out there for everyone. So we fully support everybody else and what they're doing. So we can sort that out in the future and make sure we're not stepping on any toes. But Kenny, I think we're all kind of just waiting now for any kind of formal stuff from the club now, aren't we? I think we've all heard the Asgard rumours. We've all heard the Cody and Gia rumours. So now it's just a case of waiting. And you never know. See, with all this going on, you might get players out being announced, and you might get players that we don't even know about coming in. Look how quickly Rothwell kind of arrived. Look how quickly Fernandez arrived. He was complete, although we knew, and we spoke about him on the pod the other night of how much we were interested. That came right out of the blue and was announced just like that. So I'm enjoying this. This is what we wanted. I was hopeful of getting 5 or 6 in by the time we get to Panathinaikos. We're some way the way they are. We do need attackers for this to work, I think. We need people to put the ball in the net, but it's building slowly and going in the right direction.
It is. And as I said, if you look at what both the new arrivals this week have said, nobody's catching wind of anything till right, literally the night before or that day that it's happening, Stevie. So that's interesting in itself, that there must be they must have, fingers in many, many pies, if you want to put it that way, because there is clearly stuff going on. You look at the rumours this week with the boy Thilo Asgard. You look at the rumours with David Brooks. He's a player I would take in a minute. He's a cracking player. He's a Premier League player, actually, that's been a wee bit, we all know the health issues he had a few years ago. And listen, he would be a cracking player for us, genuinely. So if that was to happen, I would be delighted. We know it's just a rumour. We don't know if there's any truth in that at all. But if there was, that would be a major signing for me. That would be a really good signing. But again, as I say, it's kind of what Leeds have done, isn't it? And Leeds fans have told us that you'll not hear anything until literally a couple of hours before, and that'll be that. So, yeah, well, I'm sure that it will happen, and it will happen over the next week or two, mate, because, in fact, I would expect a lot of it to happen in terms of what we're going to do for the Panathinaikos game. I would expect that to happen over the next 4 or 5 days, because he's going to want to work with them down at St George's. Yourself, you're going down, I know you are, but they're going to go down there next week, and they're going to start really planning for that particular game. And that's an important tie for us. We need to be as prepared and as ready as we can be for that, because they're spending cash, mate. They're going out and spending a few quid. They've brought 5-6 players in already themselves, and they're spending money when they're doing it. So they'll be a decent enough side. They finished second in Greece. We've already played Olympiacos last season, and I think we finished 2 or 3 places above them in the league. We went over there and got a draw. Probably deserved to win that game, to be honest. So if we can get over to Athens in that heat, in that humidity, with a lead, from the game at Ibrox, then that would be handy. But on another note, I'm sorry to hear that about Martin over at the Rangers Rabble. We can sort that out. I know Martin's a good lad, and we'll sort that out.
Yeah, as we said, we don't want any. If there's issues, we'll fix it. So we're all Rangers together. That's what's important. Haggis Killer, who's a good friend of the show, Stevie, now that Martin has had them for most couple of weeks, what are you looking to see on Sunday against Blues? First of all, Kenny and I will be there covering, so that'll be good fun. We're looking forward to that. And what am I looking to see? What am I looking to see? Just a good performance, just some positivity. I would love us to win the game. Ultimately, it's a friendly, so it doesn't matter. But I'd like to see something where I could walk away at the end and go, right, okay, that's a good building bridge to something else. A good first step. Friendlies mean very little, but I would like to see positivity. That's one of the main things. Good, quick passing football, few goals would be absolutely ideal. But this is a transitional period. It's a work in progress. There's a lot of players still to arrive. There's a lot of players still to leave, and it's a fitness session. We know that, but I'd like to see positivity. I'd like to enjoy it. I'd like to have a good laugh with my good friend Kenny. And obviously, we want to see a Rangers win. I think that just about covers it, Kenny, I think.
Yeah, well, I checked the weather forecast, and it's meant to piss down for days, mate. And then about an hour before the game and right until about 5 o'clock, it's meant to stay quite dry and sunny. So take your sunscreen, mate.
Factor 50.
Otherwise, we're going to look silly. A pair of baldies like us getting scalped with the sun. But what I'm looking forward to is just to see the kind of shape, the wee small patterns of play that he's managed to try and implement over the last couple of weeks. You're right, it is a transitional period for us. We are going from a confused bunch of players over last season, where they had to change a manager kind of halfway, 3/4 of the way through the season, and it seemed to confuse them even more at times, to having the same group of players with a few additions and a few losses, and them having to go and do something entirely different again. So that's what I'm intrigued to see, what shape we're going to play, what the formation's going to be. As I say, the wee patterns of play, these transitions, if you've been, I know you've been away, mate, but if anybody's been watching the training videos, these transitions are really important, and the pace and the speed that we're playing them at and trying to win the ball back so quickly. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out in an actual gameplay, in an actual match, and against a decent side, mate. Bruges are a very tidy side, so that'll be interesting to see how we fare against what is a good outfit and a team that we could end up playing if we were to happen to get through the playoffs of the Champions League. We could end up playing them if I believe so. An interesting one and an exciting one, and I can't wait to get down. As I say, I'm more intrigued than anything else. So that's the thing, just to see what we're doing and get. And as I say, that gantry's a cracking. You get a cracking seat in there, mate. You're lucky, and I'm looking forward to going and sitting and getting that cracking view in there.
Yeah, as it's a friendly, they're normally quite quiet, so we'll be able to get myself and Kenny in. I'm like everybody else. I am waiting just to see if Rangers are going to do anything at 8 o'clock, and it doesn't look like they are. No, Russell Martin spoke to Rangers TV ahead of Sunday at Club Bruges. They are at it, aren't they? They are absolutely at it. But yeah, it's fun at least waiting to see what they're doing. But what was that? Sorry,
Mañana, mate. That's come on. It's torture,
bunch of teases, aren't they? What's coming up on Four Lads? What's coming up? For members, will be a YouTube discussion zone tomorrow. We normally do it Sunday, but we'll go tomorrow because we are covering the game on Sunday, so you'll get coverage of the game on Sunday. Back Monday night show, Wednesday night show, Friday night show again. But there's going to be different next week. On Thursday, myself and David Edgar are travelling down to Button, to St George's, to cover the training. So we're going to get exclusive access into the training. Now, all media here, this isn't a special privilege thing. We'll get to watch training, and we'll get to speak to Russell Martin one-on-one and a few of the players. That's not entirely, we're not sure who we get. It's just like, it's a media day as such, which we're looking really forward to covering. So myself and Davey will put out some coverage of that, and between us, hopefully we'll be able to bring you a few interviews and some good fan media coverage. So that'll be next week. So the Friday night live may or may not involve me, because on the Friday, we won't be leaving there until mid-afternoon. I think it's a 5 or 6 hour journey, and me and Davey are old, and we'll be stopping, every hour just to make sure we're all right and stuff like that up the road. A couple of wee toilet breaks and stuff like that. So it's a long drive, Kenny. You know what I mean? 5 hours for me is a long drive in the wee Corsa. But we'll give it our best shot. What I would say is, just before we go, I had loads of messages and help about the car last week. The car couldn't be helped. The car is a write-off. So that just kind of sums up my luck these days. Somebody suggested it was a wet belt, and that's exactly what it was. And once that goes, your oil goes and your engine blows, and good night, Vienna. My first month of not paying it off, and yes, there it is. Or, you know what I mean? Just the way it goes. So got a shiny new car, and I've still got the wee Corsa. So we've got a shiny new family car, but it's some laugh, Kenny. But thank you, mate, for joining us tonight. Signings, rumours, pressers, all sorts going on. It's starting to get fun.
That's a load of old bollocks about your car, mate. I felt for you when you told me, innit? I mean, like, wow. But yeah,
away, didn't I? I was like, I knew it was going to be knackered. So,
well, you phoned me when you had broken down, and I get the fear because I thought you were wanting me to come and pick you up.
No, mate, you didn't have to leave your house. You're all right.
But no, I'm looking forward to Sunday, and yeah, you've distinctly told me to take my own car, haven't you? Because you're going to pick Davey up, so I'll take my own car. I'd say that I've got some cheek, mate. I'm about 10 minutes down the road in the motorway. You know that anyway. So I can be there in literally about 10 minutes. So I'm just winding you up.
We're looking forward to it. We certainly are. Look, just a personal thanks to everybody that tuned in. There's over 6,000 of you watching on all platforms across social media, which we absolutely can't believe, listening to a couple of old guys like us waffle away about the club we love. So we really appreciate it. thanks for everybody that is YouTube members and supporting me personally and supporting the podcast. We really appreciate that as well. And the content will keep coming. Hopefully we'll see a few of the members in the discussion zone tomorrow, probably about 3 o'clock. We'll go for that one. So look to see a lot of you there. If you want to become a member, you can do for as little as 99p. I've been promised on Sunday that I'm going to speak to Mark Hateley, and I'll finally get an update on whether or not I'm getting that elusive interview with him, because that would be the next interview that I really want to do. We have also lined up Gordon Smith, which David Haird's going to do. So we're trying to get all different layers of players and things like that for all our members and stuff. So we hope to be able to do that. I love doing the one-to-ones interviews because I'm sitting there as a fan hearing, you know, you ask Mark Hateley about the time he scored up at Pataudry and you just sit and go, I was listening to that and on the wireless kind of thing. So, brilliant. These are things we hope we can happen, and we'll keep you updated with them. And yeah, back tomorrow for discussion zone. We'll get a report from the gantry on Sunday, and then we'll have our live shows next week. So thank you, everybody. A couple of Rangers dads, says David Lewis. That's exactly what we are, mate. And we're not professionals. We're just talking about the club we love, and we love all the support. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Hopefully see a few of you on Sunday at the game. If you do see us, please say hello, and have a great weekend. We'll see you tomorrow, speak to you tomorrow, and we'll speak to you on Sunday. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.